Hi, ladies. As far as I know, we still have to do data day on the 10th, February 10th. Um, we haven't really had a PLC lead meeting in a while because they've been having us do like professional development through Dream Builders. So they really haven't given us much direction on it. I guess it'll be the same as it was last semester. But what I'm hoping is that what we can do individually is this form that I've kind of created, and then we can just do like one of each of the other documents, like as a whole PLC, instead of us doing all those things individually, because I think that's just too much for like what it is at this point. So I've created this, which was kind of similar to what we gave the students for their midterm, but instead of the students completing it, we're going to complete it. So what I did was I went through the standards in our Unit 1 test, and then I pulled the questions for those standards, and then like categorized them the way that we did on our mastery analysis. So what we're going to do is kind of calculate how many questions we mastered for our test for like each of our classes, and then I'll be able to like break down the teacher data and the overall data as well, and like put that into kind of like a visual. But because it's COVID and we're doing everything virtually, I'm going to say we're going to give ourselves a little bit of grace here. And I'm going to say that we mastered the questions if 70% of our students got them correct. So if 70% of the kids answered them correctly, that means that we have mastered that question. And then I guess we'll go with the 80% mastery for the standards. But I don't know, depending on what it looks like, I can make the visuals look, however I really want them to look, because data is just a manipulation anyway. And this year is, I think they've said multiple times, they just want us to focus on the process. So we'll just focus on the process. So what I'm going to do is just go into my test. And actually, I'm going to go into my grades first and make sure that all my are selected. So I'm going to go to all sections. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to my quizzes. I'm going to open my Unit 1 test. And then I'm going to go to my quiz statistics, which was not great. These kids did not do very well. I will say in a normal year, I mean, these are freshmen. This is the first time I've really had like a large load of earth science students. But typically a standard class will average between a 60 and a 70 on any given unit test for in-person. So honestly, this isn't super far off the mark. Also, you have children who like start the test and don't submit it, which can impact your average score. So that's just stuff to kind of keep in mind too. So like here, like I'm going to go through and pick out how many, like 70% of my class answered above. So like question 3, 83% answered correctly. So I'm just going to come back into this document. And I'm going to highlight question 3 because we got that one right. And I'm going to keep doing this just kind of all the way through. So I'm going to go through kind of like the kids did. Oh, that's very light. And highlight those questions that more than 70% of my students answered correctly. And I'm going to consider that we have mastered that standard if more than, or mastered that question, and if more than 70% got them correct. And then I'll kind of calculate how many total, like what percentage we mastered. And then that will kind of give me an idea of the overall standards. So basically, I mean, I'm not really expecting like high mastery on these standards based on what I've seen from my classes. Now, if you're teaching honors classes, or you know what, maybe you guys are having a little bit better luck than I am. But if your numbers seem low, don't worry about it. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I can fudge it to make it look how we want it to look. But what it will tell us is kind of the standards that we can focus on for like relooping and stuff like that. Because it will give us kind of what did we get the highest on, what did we get the lowest on, and then go through. So we're just going to calculate those percentages. So you just add up how many, divide it by the total, multiply by 100. And then for these down here, so I have the A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's. These don't have to be percentages. Like you don't have to calculate the percentages. If you'll just give me the numerical value, so like how many of your students got A's, how many of them got B's, and then calculate the total mastery. So once you get your numerical value, the only percentage I need from that is if you'll add up the students who got B's and A's and divide it by your total student amount. That'll give me that percentage, which will be pretty helpful for me. So mastery is considered to be 80%. So students mastered the standards or mastered the unit if they got an 80 or above on their test. But like I said, it's COVID year. So, I mean, we'll see kind of what happens with these numbers, but I'll make it look the way that we want it to look when we present it for day to day. Like I said, I haven't even heard much direction on this. I assume it's going to be the same way we did it in the fall, but we'll just kind of see. So once you're done with those numbers, if you'll just come back up here and click on this Google form link, and then it will just, if you'll just fill this out. So give me your percentages for each standard, and then your total mastery overall. That's that percentage of students with A's and B's, and then your just number of students with A's, B's, C's, D's, and F's, kind of like we do on our report cards for the end of the quarter. So if you guys give me this, if you can do this for me by next Tuesday, so the day before Data Day, I should be able to do the rest, and we can just talk about it. So my goal with this is to get the visuals, like the actual like graphs and stuff for the presentation. And then kind of this will be the extent of what we have to do, because data is important, but again, we're in a year that's kind of weird. And so it's hard to really gauge how the students are actually doing with the fact that they can Google things, and also with the fact that they're not logging on, or et cetera, et cetera. There's just a lot to take into account. But yeah, if you guys could just get this Google form filled out for me by Tuesday the 9th, that would be fantastic. And if you have any questions about doing the calculations, let me know as well. But yeah, it's just kind of a way to get some visual representation of this data from our Unit 1 test. And you don't have to count like the students that didn't take it. So like the total F's, if you have students have zeros that did not take the test, take those out. Don't count those in the F's. Only if they got below a 60 taking the test would you count that as an F, because we don't really want to include the non-takers in that. All right, so that's all I have. If you guys have questions, let me know. And if not, we can just kind of be working on this over the next few days to help us with day to day. All right. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you in a PLC meeting next week.